Look, we've all played Fire Red at this point. You know the normal order of things. It goes Gym 1 Brock, Gym 2 Misty, Gym 3 Lieutenant Surge, on until the last gym leader Giovanni. But if you ever stop to consider if it really has to be that way? If you were somehow able to go south out of Pallet Town at the start of the game, could you navigate through the region backwards? Maybe, but would you actually be able to beat the game doing that? Well, I had this same thought, and turns out I'm not alone. One brave ROM hacker out there dared to dream, and created one of the weirdest ROM hacks I've ever played that sent us on a very unexpected journey. This is Fire Red Backwards Edition. The game begins as any normal playthrough of Fire Red would in our home of Pallet Town. Right off the bat, we head downstairs where something just seems a little off. Oh, it's those boxes. Those aren't normally here. Anyway, we say hi to our mom, then proceed on as usual. We play dumb and pretend to head out of town without a Pokemon like an idiot, which prompts Professor Oak to stop us and bring us back to his lab. In the lab, we meet our rival Gary and receive our free pity Pokemon from Oak. This is where the differences in the game start to become a bit more obvious. Instead of the normal starters that we all know and love, we find a ragtag group of Pokemon that includes Kabuto, Mankey, and last, most certainly least, Hoot Hoot. We resist the urge to choose the monkey and instead opt for the small but mighty Kabuto, which we nickname Legs. That means Gary ends up with Mankey, but we overcome our type disadvantage and defeat him to take home our first W in our fledgling rivalry. True to form, Gary says something about how he's going to like the video and subscribe to the channel since he's really enjoying it and it helps Quinn out a ton, then storms off. After running the usual errand for Professor Oak and getting our Pokedex and Pokeballs, we meet this sleepy, rude old man who's blocking the road that you would usually take at this point in the game to go up to Brock's gym. This guy's a real piece of work and won't budge, but we remain unfazed since this isn't just some normal, boring forward playthrough of Fire Red. This is Fire Red Backwards Edition, baby. So we head back to Pallet Town, where we discover that global warming has finally helped us out for a change and dried up the entirety of Route 21, turning it into a very dry but very walkable desert. Bad for the fish, but this sand sure does feel great on the knees, huh? We work our way south through this route, where we have some battles against the strange trainers who have taken up residence in the desert, like this hiker who has 5 level 15 Magikarps and a level 1 Gyarados. Really taking the whole backwards thing to heart. I like it. After beating him, we beef up the team a bit by catching a Baltoy, which we nickname Clay, and an Ekans. Then we find our way into what used to be Cinnabar Island, but due to the lack of surrounding water, is now called the Cinnabar Oasis. In town, we find that the front door of the gym is locked, and worse yet, that same rude old man somehow managed to beat us down here. As most of you are probably aware, the key to unlock this gym is in the Pokemon Mansion. So we start exploring this dilapidated house. Inside, we catch Hot Dog the Growlithe, then retrieve the secret key from the basement, which allows us to bust down the door to the gym. Normally in this gym, you can answer quiz questions to skip through the trainers, but that's for loser nerds who probably make YouTube videos about Pokemon or something lame like that, not big buff jocks like us. So we choose the way of the closed fist and whoop all the trainers until we arrive at the gym leader Blaine. In our first battle against this hot boy, we manage to get through his cast form and ace Magmar. Then he brings in his Houndour that wipes the rest of our squad. Yeah, even though the levels are scaled down for this gym for the early game, the gym leaders in this ROM are still hard. So we go ahead and hyperbolic time chamber ourselves in the Pokemon Mansion until we trained up the most elite kill squad in the Tri-City area. With our newfound power, we re-challenge Baldy. This time, Legs is able to throw big enough rocks at Blaine's team to secure us a W. 1 badge down, 7 to go. With our new badge shining brighter than Blaine's bald-ass head, our business in the Oasis is concluded. We head out of the gym where we find that the rude old man has mysteriously disappeared, allowing us to head east of town onto the dried-out seafloor of Route 20. We trudge through yet more sand and add Cactus the Cacnea to the team as we battle through the trainers. In the middle of this route, we're forced through some dumb ice cave segment in what is now known as the Seafoam Well. Eventually, we make it out the other side of the cave, back onto the desert of Route 20. Then we accidentally hop down this ledge here where we find ourselves right back where we started. After another lap through the cave, we successfully avoid our ledge nemesis and trudge through more desert until we arrive at the rainy Route 19. We find a group of cultists and some helpful lore signs that tell us a little more about the mysteries of this new Kanto. According to Mr. Sign here, this is the place where the region's new deity, the all-powerful Slugma, sealed the oceans in what could only be interpreted as divine intervention to aid us in our challenge. This can only mean one thing. We're on a holy quest. A crusade to save this land. I promise you, Slugma, I will complete this challenge. We sacrifice our Ekans to our new god, then we have some dicey battles with these Slugma cultists, and finally we find our way into Fuchsia City. Conveniently, we enter on the south side of town right next to the gym, so we go ahead and check it out. It seems that this gym has recently undergone a bit of expansion, adding in more invisible walls and taking everything we know and love about this stupid mechanic to the next level. With the blessing of Slugma, not even the things we can't see can stop us. And after more time than I care to admit, we're able to navigate this maze and arrive at the gym leader Koga. Feeling ourselves a little bit, we immediately challenge him and proceed to get the swiftest of ass beatings. I thought that last gym was a doozy, but boy does this Koga fight put us to the test. But we push through in the name of Slugma. Eventually, after banging our head against this guy for hours and some training, we just barely squeak out a victory, earning us the soul badge and the ability to use surf outside of battle. With our newfound travel capabilities, we head into the Safari Zone and grab the HM for surf, which we use to traverse this newly formed lake on the east side of town. Then surf around this big sleepy boy blocking the road and arrive at Lavender Town, which seems to have undergone some renovations in the time since we were here last. We take in the sights, then head into the Pokemon Tower where we battle Gary. After the battle, we meet this kind old lady who generously gives us some refreshing lemonade and some hot tea. Unfortunately, the stairs to the next level of the tower are blocked by a spooky spirit, so we head out in the only direction we can go, west to Route 8. We find that Slugma has graced this route with fertility, covering it in beautiful flowers. Thank you, Slugma. Overcome with emotion, we weep for hours. Then we battle through more of the cultists who are trying to steal the attention of our lord, and finally we arrive at the gate to Saffron City, where we find an absolutely parched guard. Thankfully, that old lady tea is wet enough to quench the man's thirst, and he allows us to pass into the city. In town, we find that Team Rocket is out in full force, but one problem at a time. First, we decide to head in and tackle Sabrina's gym. This gym gives a new meaning to the term teleporter madness. I mean, look at this place. But thanks to our sharp wit and ample free time, we're able to navigate the teleporters and make our way into Sabrina's chamber, where we immediately challenge her. I'm gonna be honest, we kinda cheesed this one with our Cacturn and its dark type immunity to psychic attacks, but after the things this game has put me through, I have no regrets. After securing the badge, we decide to go check out the Team Rocket nonsense at the old Sylph Co. As usual, Team Rocket is up to some nasty business, so we battle through the tower and run into the evil team leader Giovanni. Despite his Rhyhorn hitting a one-hit KO horn drill on Clay, his team isn't very good at this point, so we're able to beat him and free the tower from the rocket threat. With the tower secured, we're free to head down the shortest of routes into Celadon City. We knock out a few quick errands, then move on down to the southern edge of town and head into Erica's gym to challenge the crazy plant lady. Even with the might of her Cradily and Jumpluff, Erica is simply no match for our newly evolved Arcanine, and we're able to take her out first try. Our next stop is the Game Corner, where we use Strength, which we totally remembered to grab while we were in Fuchsia City the first time, to move this boulder that Slugma placed out front of the Game Corner to deter the unholy act of gambling. Spoiler alert, this is where the Team Rocket hideout is. We battle our way through the hideout until we arrive at our second battle against Giovanni. Wait, or is it technically our first battle? Can't be too sure, whatever. We beat him again and get the Sylph Scope, which we use to climb the Pokemon Tower and rescue Mr. Fuji. As a thank you, he gives us the Pokeflute, which we use to wake up the sleepy boy we surfed around before and access Route 11, and ultimately arrive at Vermilion City. This is where we find it, the biggest challenge of this entire run by far. A hurdle that would make even the most experienced Pokemon Pro quiver. A true test from Slugma. There it is. The tree. No, my friend, this is no mere sapling. This is a tree that can only be defeated in a single, very special way. With the ancient hidden technique, Cut. You're probably saying to yourself, but Quinn, how are you going to get that HM? It's forbidden, and all record of it was destroyed decades ago. You must be new here. We start exploring and make our way to the Diglett Tunnel, which has recently undergone some expansion. And after navigating the twisting catacombs, we find ourselves face to face with none other than the legendary hot chicken itself, Moltres, standing between us and the exit. Of course, we do what any self-respecting trainer would do, catch it, nickname it Hot Boy, and add it to our team. On the other side of Moltres, we find the bike voucher, a very useful coupon indeed, but it does nothing to address our current problem. Worse yet, after making it to the other side of the Diglett Tunnel, we realize this is also a dead end. At this point, we start backtracking through all the places we've been until we find our way into a different tunnel, the Rock Tunnel. Normally a very dark but generally tame part of any Fire Red playthrough, you all know the tried and true online walkthrough strat, don't lie to me. But this time, it's not so tame. Instead of the usual rock tunnel, we find the beginning of another great trial from Slugma. A ridiculous gauntlet of insane trainers and absurdly long areas. After what must have been hours in there, we come out and are forced into the power plant. Also expanded, but thankfully no trainers in here, just a Zapdos blocking the exit. Can't really pass up the opportunity to use my childhood favorite legendary, so we catch it and nickname it D. Then we exit the power plant, battle this random Pokenerd, and see that Slugma seems to be having a little laugh at the rocks here. Must be some kind of trick up ahead. Not wanting to fall victim to something silly, we do the opposite of what you normally would here and hop down this ledge, which spits us back out at the start of the rock tunnel. Okay, so we're forced to navigate the big old cave and power plant again, all part of the plan. This time, Slugma guides us, and we surf in the correct direction. We find that the Pokemon Center at the other side of the rock tunnel is blocked off by another menacing tree. So we head west, where we find another suspicious ledge. We've been burned before, so we thoroughly scope it out, but we find no other way to progress. So we put our faith in Slugma and hop down the ledge. Thankfully, it actually does lead us in the correct direction this time, into an area called the Path of No Return. Ominous. This path has effectively 100 trainers on it, and since we don't have fly, we are effectively stuck here until we effectively make it through or white out. Luckily, we had stocked up on heals before this, so we do our 100 or so battles, then find the exit of the path is blocked by the final member of the legendary bird trio, Articuno. Being the completionists that we are, we decide to catch it, then slide down a waterfall, and after just a couple more battles, we find ourselves in Cerulean City. Or rather, a very tiny northeastern corner of Cerulean City. The rest of the city is blocked by a bunch of bushes. It seems Slugma is not finished with us yet. These bushes funnel us up to the Nugget Bridge, which has no trainers on it, but as we look off to the side, we see something disturbing. Looks like that's our way out. But before we get to that gauntlet, we find ourselves at Bill's house. After the appropriate amount of kink shaming, we help him transform back into a human, and he rewards us with a ticket for the SSN. It's not a whole lot of use to us at this point since we're currently stuck, so we put it away for safekeeping. Then we fight through all the trainers to the west of Bill's house and arrive at the aptly named Cerulean Gauntlet, off to the side of the Nugget Bridge. We narrowly scrape our way through every single one of these fights, and just as we're about to enter Cerulean City, we're ambushed by none other than our rival Gary himself, who proceeds to, yes, wipe our entire team with his Primeape. And that puts us all the way back in Lavender Town. So we close the game for the day. After a good night's sleep, we pick up where we left off and redo that entire section again. Finally, we arrive back at the Gary fight. This time, we don't mess around. We use Moltres to rain holy fire down upon our enemy and burn his entire team to a crisp. After losing, Gary storms off, and now we're finally able to enter Cerulean City. Oh. We can only get to the bike shop, huh? Not exactly what we were hoping for, but at least we can get a bike. At this point, we're a bit lost. So we think back until we remember our time running illicit goods up the coast of Somalia with our good friend Peter. Who is Peter? Oh, just the captain of the SSN. A man who can get you anything you need for the right price. So we head back to Vermilion City and use our ticket to board the cruise ship. And we head up to the captain's quarters to catch up with our old friend. Pete, you remember the time where the crate full of AK-47s started misfiring and killed half our entire crew? Oh man, good times, good times. We catch up, then ask for a favor. You wouldn't happen to have any spare cut HMs laying around here, now would you, Petey? Of course not. That's the type of thing that could really land a man in some hot water. I got you good, didn't I? Oh, after a good laugh, he hands over the HM. Now it's finally time for us to get back to that pesky little tree that got us into this whole mess. We leave the ship and head over to face our nemesis. We press A against the tree, and nothing happens. Okay, that's weird. Maybe try selecting it from the menu? Nothing there either. Curious. Thinking we might have missed something, we retrace our steps a little bit, and eventually find our way over to the cycling road, which we battle through and get the HM for fly, but that also doesn't really help us. After scouring the world and exhausting all avenues, we realized something that you've probably been screaming at your screen since we first set foot in this town. Yeah, we could have just surfed by this tree the whole time. I don't want to talk about it, okay? With this game's greatest puzzle finally solved, we head in to put our mental fortitude to the test yet again, against the second greatest puzzle in the game, the trash can puzzle. Thanks to our superior intellect, we are easily able to overcome this child's play and deactivate the electric fence protecting Surge and challenge him. This fight really boils down to one simple thing. No matter what Pokemon you give an electric-type gym leader, ground types are still incredibly immune to their attacks. So we use Clay to cheese the pants right off of Mr. Surge. After defeating him, we unlock the ability to actually use that cut HM that we spent all that time getting, which gets us access to the rest of Cerulean City, where we're able to take on everyone's childhood crush, Misty, who ends up being a much larger challenge than Mr. Surge. She starts out the fight with a twisted mind game, sending out our own mother to face us in battle. But we have been sent on a divine mission by Slugma itself. We can't let anything stand in our way, and so we're forced to take out our own mother. This psychotic gym leader isn't done yet. From here, Misty brings in Politoed, who sets up Rain, but we just so happen to have a counter. We bring Castform in to overwrite the Politoed's Rain with a sunny day. Without the Rain, Misty's team is pretty hopeless, which sets up an easy Zapdos sweep. Our next stop after those 2 quick gym badges is Mount Moon, which has been transformed into a temple in honor of our great Lord Slugma. In search of salvation, we climb to the top of the pyramid, battling through endless hordes of faceless rocket grunts until we reach the top, where we see Giovanni and his 3 lieutenants. As we approach them, we're blessed with a brief glimpse of perfection in Pokemon form. The almighty, all-powerful Slugma has graced us with its presence. We know what we must do. He brings his usual crew of rock and ground types, but with a little special twist. His anchor on this iteration of his team is a Lugia. Fortunately for us, D is able to clutch it out against its older brother and secure our sacrifice. We offer up Giovanni and his defeated team to our lord, who in exchange allows us to pass and surf down its holy waterfall. The falls lead us to routes 4 and 3, and after all that work, we finally arrive at the home of the very first gym, Pewter City. Amazingly, there's no gigantic obstacle, weird maze, or super long gauntlet standing in front of Brock's gym, so we head in and skip that one trainer that I don't think anyone has ever actually battled, then take on Brock. This is the 7th gym leader in a game that has had some seriously tough fights up to this point, so we gear up to see some real crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, the rock type is still the rock type, and Geodude loses to grass and water moves no matter if it's level 12 or level 100. Sorry, Brock. After desecrating Brock's team, we're in the home stretch. Just one more badge and then on to the Elite Four, and our crusade is complete. The only thing standing between us and the final gym is the Viridian Forest, which with Slugma on our side is no challenge. We burn through the forest, then walk into Viridian City. We waste no time and head into the final gym, work our way through the teleporter meets DDR madness, then challenge the last gym leader, Giovanni. What? I guess it's the sleepy old man instead, okay. Whoever it is, we challenge them in the name of Slugma. He gives us a snarky apology in advance and we head into battle. Not sure what this guy was apologizing for, but we roll this old fart in his geriatric squad. Not even his Ledian or Farfetch'd with their ridiculously boosted stats can save him. We just give him that work. Now that we've successfully navigated all the way back to where we started the game, we head over to Victory Road to finish it. We start solving the strength puzzles, expecting to run into some twist or new area that never actually ends up coming, and eventually we find the exit. But standing there blocking the door, we spot a familiar figure, Lance the Dragon Master. As he locks eyes with us, he tells us that he's been kicked out of the Elite Four and forces us into a battle. Can't imagine what he did to deserve to be kicked out, but he was always a bit of a gimme trainer anyway. This battle is no exception to that, and we wipe the floor with his Dragonairs. We exit the cave and enter the Elite Four building. We make our preparations and brace ourselves for whatever unholy things await us in the Elite Four. Then we head in to begin our cleansing of these heretics. This game absolutely saved the most ridiculous stuff for last. Our first battle is against youngster Joey, and that on its own is pretty weird, but weirder yet, this little mad scientist seems to have conducted some strange experiments on his Rattatas, twisting them into different colors and types. These demon Rattatas are also busted strong, and we end up losing so many battles to them. But eventually we're able to use some immunities to cheese out these rats, no pun intended, then move on to the next chamber. Nothing could have prepared us for what we find on the other side of that door. We gasp as we see that the second trainer turns out to be our very own mother. We exchange pleasantries and she gives us some encouraging words, but you can tell we both know it's about to be a bloodbath. Luckily, it seems like we must have gotten our Pokemon skills from our dad's side of the family, because despite having a Suicune on our squad, we roll over our team with D. Hardened by defeating our own mother, we move on to the third member of this ragtag group, the evil mastermind Giovanni. His team is basically the same as the last few times we've gone up against him, so we effortlessly get him down to his last Pokemon, but this is where he hits us with a major curveball, bringing in the Sparky Sabertooth Raikou. Nothing an Earthquake from Kabutops can't solve, but still kinda intimidating. From here, we move on to the fourth member of the Elite Four, Gary? Unfortunately for our rival, we've battled him 20 plus times at this point, so we use that knowledge to get him down to his final Pokemon Entei, and D lands a clutch paralysis on it, then we take the fight home. Now with Gary out of the way, we head into the final room to find out who this new champion / our next victim is. We enter the champion's room and find that same goddamn old man. We approach him, and after some serious back in my day boomer talk, we commence our final battle. He leads with a Ho-Oh, which after seeing the 3 legendary dogs in the last 3 fights, I should have probably seen coming, but it still catches us off guard. Thankfully, Legs murks it with the Rock Slide, then with the legendary chicken out of the way, the rest of his team falls easily. Before we have any time to celebrate our victory, Professor Oak storms in and takes us into the champion's room, where he tells us of one final secret mission. He says that after losing to us, Gary stormed off, saying he was going to seek out and capture the god Slugma itself. A true suicide mission. Oak implores us to save his grandson from certain doom. We really don't care too much about Gary, but we jump at the opportunity to bring ourselves closer to Slugma. Oak directs us to the Pokemon Center by the Rock Tunnel, which teleports us over to the remote Slugma Island. We search the island until we find the entrance to Slugma's house. After working our way through a gigantic maze, we climb down the final ladders and find ourselves in an ominous, empty field. In the middle of the field, we find Gary. After a few lines of cryptic dialogue, he forces us into a battle. He sends out his one and only Pokemon, the true god Slugma. Our Lord blesses us by smiting our whole team, but after doing battle with Slugma on our own terrestrial plane, we realize there's a way we could ascend. A way we could become a god. We must do the unthinkable. We must kill Slugma. And there is only one weapon that is capable of such a feat, the Quick Claw. We hit Slugma with Toxic. Of course it's immune. It would be a disappointment if it were that easy. After trying Leech Seed and Protect to no avail, we have one final idea. We give our Quick Claw to Cacturn and hit it with the old classic move Destiny Bond, tying Slugma's fate to our own martyr, slaying its holiness in just one turn. Now that we've ascended to the top of the Pokemon Pantheon, we can finally rest. Your new god orders you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Till next time.